Hey, how's it going, guys? Charles here with Snyder Marketing LLC, and it's Monday afternoon. Getting around to this a little bit later than what I normally do. It's been kind of a busy morning, but hey, is what it is, right? So normally on Monday, I go live on Facebook and I talk about the latest weekly kicks, and then I talk about whatever. So today I'm doing things a little bit differently. I've been going live just about every day here on YouTube, and I do the Facebook Live like once a week. So I'm actually doing this one first. I think still got to do the one over on Facebook, I guess, because some people have gotten used to it, and it's a way to actually share a little bit of what's going on, what's happening, all that fun stuff. And then the main gist of this live stream that I've been doing every day, is to share more information about the upcoming webinar, talk about stuff related to ROI Ninja CRM, missed call text back, and just kind of like a look behind the scenes of what's going on as we're doing it. So let's most of the morning I've been working on the ROI Ninja CRM and missed call text back website, which is almost finished now. So there's still some work to do on that, but I'm getting through that, and the team's anxious. We're actually meeting later on this evening to talk about finalizing some of the stuff with this. So anyway, you guys don't care about that. We've just been talking about this for about a week or so, and we're just trying to get it live. I want to get the damn thing done. I want to get it up and get it live. But so that's what we're working on the back end. But real quick, with the latest weekly kicks is which was number 70, since we started doing the weekly kicks again last July. And there's been a lot. I mean, there's been kind of like a lot of changes and everything. There's been a lot of stuff that's going on since then. So number 70 was kind of like another reflection period, talking about, looking back on where we've been and, why we're doing what we're doing. Excuse me a second. I needed a sip of water. The back of my throat is dry as hell today. And I love this time of year. I'm being sarcastic. Just trying to avoid like the normal, like I get a coughing fit, or, I got a sneeze or something every time I do one of these live streams. So I'm trying to avoid that. And of course, I've had my coffee, man. I don't know what it is today, but anyway, so I was looking back and I'm reflecting on, where we've been over the last like year and a half. It's been for about 16 months, not quite a year and a half. So, just kind of looking back over, where we started, where we're, and where we're heading. So that's kind of what the gist of those emails are. Well, every 10th one or so, I kind of reflect back on, where we've been, what we're doing. So now this particular one was actually about a book I read that came out. I think it was like 2004, 2002, 2003, somewhere in that time frame, early 2000s. A book called The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews came out, and I believe it was like somewhere in there shortly after it was published is when I got the book. I was introduced to the book by several folks I was going to like Toastmasters with, and I was kind of following Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi way back when. And I can't even remember who turned me on to the book, but I remember hearing the name of the book. I got it, and because it wasn't like a real thick book or anything, so I got it and I read it, and I was really impressed. I really immersed myself in the whole book. So if you don't know what The Traveler's Gift is, it's a real quick and easy read. And basically, it's like a glimpse. I mean, it's really like a literary gem. And I say that in the newsletter as well, is the protagonist in the book, whose name is David Ponder, has these issues, has these life issues that are very real, that all of us have probably faced at one time or another, or maybe facing right now. And I think it's really poignant and it's relevant. Maybe this is why the book has been a New York Times bestseller for as long as it has. I forget what it is. It's over 1 million some odd copies that they've sold of this book. And my information is dated as far as that go. But it's a good book. I like the book. I really enjoyed the read. It's like, and I just read it again recently. Last week I finished it up. Friday night I finished reading it again for, I believe, the 6th time. Read it, and every time I sat down to read it, I mean, I can't stop. I just keep going with it. It only took me a couple days when I actually sat down and started reading it. But anyway, there's three main points that really stick with me, particularly when he's going through the story. He talks to President Harry S. Truman, who was president after FDR at the tail end of World War II. There's without getting really like deep into the whole thing, I mean, if you want to read it, get signed up for weekly kicks, and then you can like really read like my deep-seated thoughts with that and why it really sticks with me. But real quick, the reason why I picked that one is because Harry Truman, President Truman, talks about the gift of appreciation, of gratitude. And that's probably one that I struggle with personally a lot. And I have to keep on re-emphasizing that in my life, because I appreciate my family. I appreciate my friends. I appreciate my fiance and her family. And it's not even so much that I don't appreciate it at times, which that's simply not the case. One of the things that's talked about from that concept is appreciating the beauty of life, of the world, even when your life is in chaos or you have a tough decision. Like it takes place right around the time that President Truman is talking to his advisors in Potsdam before they make the final decision to drop nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And both of those bombs resulted in a lot of deaths. So to boil it down, to the really with I'm trying to think of a simple, quick way of actually saying this. Is that's a lot of that's a hefty decision that you have to make. That's a lot of responsibility. And again, it goes back to talking about gratitude and being able to, one of the gifts that he actually talks about is the gift of being able to forgive yourself. You can't change the past. I know that. You're more than likely to know that. But being able to forgive yourself, that's something worth talking about, because I think, at least from my experience, that I never really thought a whole lot about until I actually read that in the book. And like I said, I got to remind myself of that every, now and again, that, I got to appreciate that I can't change the past, but I can change the future. So the other two conversations that really stood out to me was, during the course of the book, he's hopping around like time traveling, meeting all these interesting people. Was he met Abraham Lincoln at the Gettysburg Address, and one of the things that he talks about to Lincoln, who's like, Abraham Lincoln's like a beacon of leadership, as far as, especially in like turbulent times and stuff like that. He was trying to hold a country together at the time. Up until Gettysburg, the Union was, during the Civil War, was having a lot of trouble. I mean, they were getting trounced pretty bad every stinking battle up until that point. And a lot of scholars and everything, basically say that, Gettysburg was like the turning point, because that after Gettysburg, that's when Grant took over. And then that's when the Union, I almost said we, but the Union at that point really started to move forward, with their mission of keeping the country together. And one of the other things that he really talks about, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, because there's like a couple things that actually came together with the conversation that this character had with Abraham Lincoln that like really stood out for me. It's kind of a one of the biggest things is like responsibility, personal accountability. And that, that's something that integrates seamlessly with everything that I've been teaching, that I try to teach, people when I'm doing my coaching or when I'm doing, live webinars and stuff like that, is, hey, we are where we are because of our decisions, but that's the good news and the bad news. We are where we are because of the choices that we made. We can't go back and change any of those choices, going back to the Harry S. Truman conversation. But the good news is we can change it by making better choices in the future. So that's why those two conversations really stood out. And then the final one that really resonates with me, struck a chord with me, is the conversation he has with Colonel Joshua L. Chamberlain, who later on became, he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. And again, this is all talking about the Civil War. At the Battle of Gettysburg, going back in time a little bit from the Gettysburg Address, the Battle of Gettysburg, the 20th Maine, who Colonel Chamberlain was just placed in charge of like that day, I believe, during that 3-day battle, they had during it was the second day, I believe, the second or the third day. The second day. It was the second day of the Battle of Gettysburg. 20th Maine held the far left of the line for the Union, for the Army of the Potomac, of the Union Army. And at the start of the war, like they had, I forget what it was like 1,000 some people that was in the 20th Maine Regiment. And by the Battle of Gettysburg, they started that day with about 400. After Fredericksburg, they lost a lot of people. And they started the day on the far left of the line with about 400. And they repulsed, it was 14 charges, I believe it was, where multiple regiments, 2 or 3 regiments of the Army of the Northern Virginia, the Confederate Army, charged their position on the far left on Little Round Top, and they held the line. at great expense, at great personal expense, because I believe Colonel Chamberlain lost one of his brothers during that battle. Just about everybody was wounded, and they were down to about 200 men. By the end of the day, they were out of ammunition. There was no reinforcements, and Colonel Chamberlain was faced with a choice at that point. He knew if he stayed where he was, they were going to all be killed, because they were almost, they were down to about 2 shots a man. And this is after they took ammunition and stuff off of the dead and severely wounded or unable to fight. They couldn't get reinforcements. They had no resupply. And Colonel Chamberlain, like I said, he was faced with the circumstance was, if they stayed where they were going to die. If they retreated from where they were, the Confederate Army was going to turn the Union line, and that would have lost the Battle of Gettysburg. So Colonel Chamberlain was, he had a tough choice to make in the moment. And he was, if he stayed, it was going to be death. If they left, it was going to be, a lot of other soldiers were going to die instead of them. And it was likely to change the tide of that battle, which would likely change the tide of the war. So Colonel Chamberlain decided to fix bayonets and charge. And that really stuck out to me, that, he was in such a position that, he couldn't stay where he was. He couldn't retreat. He couldn't go left. He couldn't go right. The only way for him to go was forward. And that's what he chose to do. He chose to go forward. He chose for his men to fix bayonets and charge the 2 regiments that were coming up the hill after him. And that really stuck out. That really strikes me right there, because of that position that he was in, with the responsibility of the men under his command, the few that were left. And he saved the day. He saved the day, because when they charged, they captured 2 full regiments. It was an Alabama regiment, and I forget what the other one was. I think it was Georgia or something like that. But he captured 2 regiments with less than 200 men. And it was 1,400 or so prisoners that they took with less than 200 men. And that really sticks out with me, because not only did he save the lives of his men, he saved the battle that day, which saved that entire campaign at Gettysburg, which changed the course of the war, which kept us as one country. And because of that, we were in World War I, we were in World War II. We changed the tide of both of those wars. We are one country instead of 3 or 4 or 12 or however many it may be. And we're the first country, for the first time in history, a war was fought to say that we're all created equal, no matter what our skin color is, which I truly believe in. But that really stands out to me, because that one choice that Colonel Chamberlain made has had a ripple effect down through history up until this current day. And that occurred like, what is it, like 180 years, or no, 140 years ago? His choice 140 some years ago changed the world. And we all live in a different world because of one man made one choice in the moment. And that to me is like incredibly powerful. And we're not all like holding a hill against insurmountable odds. Our life isn't maybe not on the line at the moment, but that one choice, the choices we make, can have an effect a century later. So, I mean, it gives me hope. It inspires me. It motivates me, thinking that, what I'm doing with trying to help small businesses change the way they do business, to transform their business, to work smarter, to do more with less time, less money, less people, that maybe something I'm doing will affect someone 100 years from now, or 150 years from now, or 200 years from now. I don't know if I'm Colonel Joshua L. Chamberlain. I've never been in that position. But isn't it incredible to think that you can have that kind of an impact on tens of millions of people later on, because of one choice that you made? Today there's a lot of strife in the world, and I think a lot of people are fearing that we're heading towards World War III. But isn't it? I wonder how many people are alive today because there is a United States. Because we are, for the most part, who we have been for 200 and some years. That started back in 1776 because we said no more tyranny. Isn't that something? And I'm going way over on my time today, so I'm going to leave you guys with that. That's where I'm at with the weekly kicks and stuff. If you're not signed up for weekly kicks, get signed up. It's free. And, I try to offer value with that. And then also, if you're not signed up, even if you have been to one of our webinars in the past couple months, definitely get signed up for this one coming up in December, because we're changing things up again. And, we're going off of the feedback that we've got from folks to make it better. So get signed up for that. The link will be in the description. Get signed up for, if you get signed up for that, you will be signed up for weekly kicks. But even if you're not interested in the webinar, get signed up for weekly kicks, because I try to share value. I try to change the world one decision at a time. Keep pushing forward. It's Monday. We got a great week ahead of us. We got a couple more weeks left in the year. So keep pushing forward and get set up to have a great start to 2024. I'm out of here.